Stoikov, our tape producer. What a game here this afternoon and this evening.
You know it's going to happen no matter what. Emotions are going to take over in playoff baseball. You know, and obviously when it's you know, the Yankees and Red Sox. So.
Well, it was a wild night at Fenway Park. A one-run loss for the Red Sox, but that was overshadowed by the bench-clearing situation between the Red Sox and the Yankees. And Don Zimmer and Pedro Martinez will have much more on this coming up in this special presentation of W. Mason's Extra Innings. This is a pregame show. Hello again, everybody. I'm Bob Rogers alongside Sam Horn and Jerry Remy. And, you know, you guys were both part of this rivalry when you played. And you played during the 70s. You played during the 80s. When you played, Sam, it was kind of this mild-mannered business. Red Sox and Yankees, you know, they got along pretty well. Jerry, when you played, these two teams didn't like each other.
No, they did not, Bob. You know, when you go back to the late 70s when you had Thurman Munson, of course, and Pudge Fisk, who really didn't like each other very much. And, of course, Piniella was on that team, Reggie Jackson, Rick Burleson for the Red Sox. So, you know, that was a very intense rivalry. Even before I got here, they had that big melee at Yankee Stadium where Bill Lee got hurt. So, you know, and for those few years, there were a lot of guys on each team that really didn't, they respected each other, but really didn't particularly care for each other, Sam. And, you know, they basically brought some great games, obviously, because they were two very good teams.
It added a lot to the rivalry, Jerry, I must say, that when you felt like two teams are playing and they don't like each other, it adds to it. Now you have Nomar and Derek Jeter sometimes. Remember the All-Star game when they hugged on their way out to the field?
It's different. There's no question about that, but I think we saw yesterday a good example when you have two potential Hall of Fame players. Certainly Clemens is going to the Hall of Fame, and Pedro, if his numbers continue to go up, he'll be in the Hall of Fame too. And there's a reason these guys are Hall of Fame pitchers, because they're intimidators and they have excellent stuff. And so, you know, anything can break out when you have situations like that. But, you know, you could see a lot more venom on the field yesterday, I think, in a number of cases than we've seen for a long, long time. Jorge Posada with Pedro. You know, a lot of guys screaming and yelling from both dugouts. It's something we have not seen for a long time. And sometimes, Sam, I don't know if you agree, but it takes the great pitches to bring that out of a team, you know, and that's what happens.
Right, exactly, because anytime you have that intimidating factor of a pitcher, he wants to make sure and get inside your head, because that's going to make you a lesser hitter. But these two guys are quality pitchers, and like you said, the respect, the admiration of each player, it does take away from that part, but then when you go on the field and the game actually starts, it's back to head one.
Jerry, most great pitchers pitch inside. You think about Don Drysdale and Nolan Ryan and Bob Gibson and Roger Clemens and Pedro Martinez, they pitch inside.
There's an intimidation factor in baseball, you know, and if you don't pitch inside and you let hitters get too comfortable, that's why guys hit 380 and 390. That shouldn't be. You know, the pitcher has to be able to use all of the plate, and the great pitchers do that. And every once in a while, that causes a guy to be moved off the plate. Now, there's a difference, obviously, at throwing a guy's head and moving a guy off the plate or even knocking a guy down. But that's all part of baseball, and as we saw yesterday here, Yankees certainly felt like Pedro right there was throwing at the head of Kareem Garcia, and that did not go over very well with anybody in that Yankee dugout. And as a matter of fact, Bob, since some of the comments we've heard after the game, it didn't go over very well with some of the Red Sox members either.
Well, it can work to the disadvantage, Sam, of the hitters on the Red Sox side, because now they're worried about what Roger Clemens is going to do. The Yankees try to exact some revenge on this play as Garcia goes in hard to second base.
Well, that's expected. When you're a hitter and you're up there and you think that a guy intentionally throws at you, the first thing you want to do is put every scenario in your head, running the first, breaking up two, sliding in the third, going home. I'm going to try to run over someone, and as long as it's a clean play, it doesn't matter.
Now, Jerry, it was definitely in Manny's head, so when this ball was up and in, not too close to him, it was probably closer in Manny's mind than it was in reality.
It sure was. You know, we watched that game yesterday, and you could see right from the very first minute that he stepped into that batter's box that he was anticipating Roger Clemens hitting him. Now, if you really think about this, both teams have been warned. I would think the most comfortable time would be for Manny to be in there, because if Clemens hits him, Clemens is out of the game. And Roger was not ready to go at that point. I agree. That pitch was up. It was not inside all that much, and I think it was just an overreaction, certainly on Manny's part.
This was a terrible scene to see Don Zimmer go after Pedro Martinez, and Pedro really deflecting Zimmer away, and it looks bad because Pedro, a young professional athlete, throwing a 72-year-old man to the field, but Jerry, he's protecting himself. He's seeing some guy come at him, and I'll just add this, too. According to a security guard that was down there in the field, he heard Zimmer, you know, not just come at him with a fist, but also using some words as if, hey, I'm going to come in and get you.
Which comes as no surprise to me. I've known Don Zimmer for a long time, and I know the way he reacts in the dugout. He's a very emotional guy, and he came out today in the press conference, cried through the press conference, admitting that he had made a major mistake by doing that. But that's what he does. I mean, that's who Don Zimmer is. And, you know, he, as I mentioned yesterday, Bob, in our post-game show, you know, he's still thinks like he's 25 years old, but he's 72. And you can't be doing things like that. And in defense of Pedro, I don't think he could believe that Zim was coming out after him. You see Don right there trying to take a left at him, and I think all he tried to do is deflect him away. And unfortunately, you know, Zim hits the ground. And fortunately, he's not hit seriously because, remember, this man has a plate in his head. He's got 2 bad knees, you know, 2 replacement knees. I mean, he's very fortunate that he's not seriously hurt.
Pedro was sick over it after the game. He did apologize for the, you know, for the fact that it happened, but he had to do what he did when he's got a guy coming at him.
No, yeah, I think, Bob, it'd be a major mistake to think that Pedro Martinez, you know, was trying to injure Don Zimmer. That would be, that's totally not the case.
Now, you mentioned Don Zimmer in the press conference. Just a short time ago, he did meet with the media downstairs at Fenway Park.
What happened yesterday? I'm embarrassed for the Yankees, the Red Sox, the fans, the umpires, and my family. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry.
It's a bad situation, Jerry. You know Zim, as you said, and you played for him as one of your favorite managers. He's a baseball guy. He's very proud. Sometimes you'll hear him say he's never collected a paycheck outside of baseball. Yesterday, he let his emotions get the best of him.
He really did, you know, and you know, I've seen it firsthand from the dugout. Zim gets into a game, and you know, he had a chance to sit back today and realize what had gone on. He made a major mistake. He knows he made a mistake. He loves the game of baseball. He loves baseball players, and he felt like yesterday he embarrassed not only himself, but he embarrassed the Yankee organization, the Red Sox, the fans that were here, and all of baseball. And you can see the emotion. I mean, this, you know, he's a gruff old guy, you know, but yet he's a very soft-hearted guy. And when he had a chance to sit down and see what he had done yesterday, you see the reaction today.
Sammy, heat of the moment, those types of things happen. I mean, guys do things that the next day they're going to regret.
And he did, but still, and again, he was still a true gentleman and coming out and apologizing. He understood that it was the heat of the moment, the magnitude of the game at that time. When you got a coach or manager that's going to protect your players, you could see before it happened that he had already mentioned probably, hey, if I had a chance, I would go out there and do something. It happened, it escalated, and then he went out there without thinking, and like you said, it cost him something in the end.
One thing that was missing in that tearful apology, and you predicted it last night, I asked you the question, is he going to apologize to Pedro Martinez? He didn't apologize to Pedro on that, and Joe Torre was asked that question actually in his press conference right after Zimmer left the stage, and Joe said no. Just like you did.
I told you yesterday, it's not going to happen. I mean, it's still, you know, he embarrassed himself on what he did, his actions by going on in the field and trying to attack Pedro, but his feelings are still the same, you know, about what Pedro had done in that game. And, you know, you got to remember, this is a man that almost lost his life by getting hit with pitches. So he really takes offense when any pitcher goes up near somebody's head. And yes, his emotions got the most of him, but I think his feelings today are still the very same about Pedro, the way he feels about him, than they were yesterday.
By the way, all the participants yesterday, Pedro Martinez, Manny Ramirez, Kareem Garcia, and Don Zimmer were all fined an undisclosed amount of money by Major League Baseball, but as far as we know, no suspensions coming up with what happened yesterday. We should also tell you that Major League Baseball right now, they have their representatives walking around the field at Fenway Park, checking on field conditions. As you know, we've had a lot of rain throughout New England here today, and it's still raining at Fenway Park. The umpires, representatives from Major League Baseball looking at the field. They are expected to reevaluate this in about 5 minutes, and we'll keep you updated on the status of tonight's game right after this.
Tonight's show is brought to you by W.B. Mason, the official office product supplier of the Boston Red Sox.
Well, let's not forget there was also a baseball game last night, and the New York Yankees beat the Red Sox 4-3, so they now have a 2-1 lead in this best-of-7 American League Championship Series. The Red Sox hope to play tonight to even the series up. I don't know if you guys heard the comments by Yankee team president Randy Levine, but he was saying the Yankees are asking the Red Sox for an apology for everything that happened last night. And to me, on the face of that, that seems absurd.
What are they going to apologize for?
Well, that's a good question.
What happened in the bullpen?
That's a good question. Let's talk about what happened in the bullpen, Jerry, because you guys both played the game. You have all kinds of security personnel in your dugouts and grounds crew people around you. They're from the home team. They may or may not share. I mean, you can ask them politely to leave, but apparently what happened, it got out of hand.
Oh, it got way out of hand, and, you know, I don't know what actually started this thing. You know, I saw the same clips on television that everybody else did, so who knows what was going on prior to the incident. I do know this. If you have a problem with somebody in the bullpen, then you ask to have that person removed from the bullpen. You know, and really, the guy that's down there should not be cheering for the home team. You know, he should be down there doing his job. I mean, you are in somebody else's house right there. You're in their bullpen area, and, you know, no matter how strongly you feel about the Red Sox winning, you really kind of have to keep that in check. But on the other hand, If you're doing that, and there's a problem that somebody down there doesn't like, well, then notify a police officer, notify somebody in the Red Sox organization that you would like to have that person replaced. This thing got totally ugly. You had a player, Karim Garcia, jump over the thing and get involved in this situation out there along with Nelson. There's talk about possible, not arrest, but, you know, have to come back to court and stuff like that. And this is getting crazy, you know. And I would expect that, you know, tonight, obviously, security would be very tight out there. But another unfortunate example of, you know, when things get carried away in a ball game, and I can't tell you what led up to this. I don't know. I don't know what's being said during the game.
Jerry, is in the Yankee Stadium, a lot of times you have the police officers in the bullpen there. I've seen the police officers cheering and pumping their fists when Yankees hit home runs. I would imagine you're with 55,000 people at Yankee Stadium, 35,000 here. One guy's going to tick you off like that, Sam?
Well, you can't let it get to you because they are at home, and like you said, these guys are doing their job. Jerry had mentioned earlier, you can and have the ability to wave somebody down and say this guy is annoying us or what have you, but freedom of speech, everyone has an opinion, and if you like that team, in a subtle way, you can cheer for your team, but like Jerry said, once again, we don't know what led up to that point.
Which brings me back to the very first thing I said at the start of the segment, the Yankees asking the Red Sox for an apology. Now, clearly, I think even the people on the Red Sox side are disappointed with the way Pedro Martinez throwing at Karim Garcia. But at the same time, Don Zimmer's the one who charged Pedro, and then you have the Yankees beating up, you know, 5 guys on one, stepping on his back with cleats. If there's an apology to be made, I think it's the other way around.
Bob, it's spin control. You know, when you have these things go out of hand, and, you know, a lot of times right after the game, a lot of the facts aren't known, you know, until you get to talk to the players involved, the person who was in the bullpen, somebody who might have saw it. I mean, the first thing both organizations want to do is make themselves look good, so they start spinning things. And until you get the proper information, you know, that's when you come out and make a statement. And I think maybe they might have jumped the gun a little bit on the apology thing. Look, this is, let's play baseball. I mean, enough of this stuff. This is you know, this is a chance to go to the World Series in one of the greatest matchups in the, you know, in baseball, the Yankees-Red Sox. Let's get back to playing baseball.
It's amazing how things like this seem to happen, though. I mean, sometimes when the Red Sox and Yankees play, it's usually not going to be just, you know, 5, 7 straight games where you have no controversy, Sammy.
Well, it wouldn't be the Yankees-Red Sox. You're always going to have that little bit of extra to keep you excited.
Well, is there going to be a hangover effect, Jerry, as we go now to Game 4?
Well, you know, Bob, there's no way to predict what's going to happen in any particular game. It's just impossible to do that. For me to sit here and say, oh, yeah, there's going to be more stuff, I can't say that. I don't know. But I would say this. In this series right now, I would not expect it. With the pitching matchup tonight, I would not expect it. And quite honestly, with the league here, Major League Baseball, all the officials, they're going to put an immediate halt to anything that may start. And it just doesn't make sense. It wouldn't make sense to anybody in either clubhouse to say, okay, like tonight we've got to get Garcia because he slid hard into Todd Walker, or we've got to get Manny because he started it. It just doesn't make any sense. This is way too important for that stuff. Now, things that develop in a game, that's a whole different story. I can't predict that.
Of course, there is a lot of emotion in both clubhouses, and the Red Sox were asked that question. Do they think last night will spill over to tonight?
It's a rivalry that's been going on for a long time, and it's they're all going to be tough games, and you know, it just remains to be seen.
Well, it does remain to be seen. I mean, as you look ahead now to this game, it's a very important game. As you said, Jerry, this is what they worked in February at spring training. The pitchers and catchers arrive, and they go straight through now. Here we are in October. They're where they want to be. Yeah, they're down a game, but the Red Sox have to get their focus back. Well, they do, and I think they will. You know, I really think they will. I mean, look, this has been a fantastic year for a number of reasons. First of all, to get into postseason, the exciting series they had against the Oakland Athletics, and what's better than a Yankee-Red Sox 7-game series to go to the World Series? The only thing better if they were both playing in the World Series, okay? But the fact is that they know the importance of this. I'm quite sure they do. This has been a long 24 hours since you know, everything that's going on. You see it in tape after tape. You read about it. But the fact is, once the umpire says play ball tonight, it has to be all thrown out the window, and you got to play baseball. And the Red Sox need to start to hit, although the Yankees are actually hitting under 200, and the Red Sox batting average is okay. I was stunned when I looked at that today. I wrote down a couple of numbers, and the Red Sox as a team are hitting 279, and the Yankees only 194, but the Yankees lead the series. Their pitching has been a little bit better to this point than the Red Sox. We're going to try to break down Nomar Garciaparra, some of the other guys in the lineup that have struggled in recent days as we look ahead to Game 4 of the American League Championship Series at Fenway Park. You're watching a special presentation of W.B. Mason's Extra Innings, where, yes, the hair is coming off. I asked Jerry and Sam to do it. I said I'd do it if they would.
I did it.
We're back after this. All right, let's kind got to recap how we got here to Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Game 1, Mike Mussina on the hill, and David Ortiz will unload to help the Red Sox offense get jump-started. Really, on paper, this pitching matchup, Jerry, didn't look to favor the Red Sox. Tim Wakefield against Mike Mussina.
No, Wakefield was outstanding that night and had an excellent knuckleball, and obviously the Yankees couldn't do anything with it. And I think we saw Mussina not quite at the top of his game. His location wasn't normally what we see, and the Red Sox took advantage of that. And, you know, watching that ball game, it looked like maybe they were going to really break out of this offensive slump that they've been in.
Red Sox won Game 1, 5-2, but the Yankees come back with Andy Pettitte, and Pettitte didn't seem to have it in the first couple of innings, but he got tougher as the game went along.
Yes, he did. And, you know, Andy Pettitte is the kind of guy, if you don't get him early, you're probably not going to get him for a while. They did struggle. He did struggle in the first couple of innings, some opportunities missed by the Red Sox. And then once Pettitte got loose and into the game a little bit more, he was almost unhittable after that.
And then, Sammy, with a series tied at a game apiece, we come back to Fenway Park and we come back to the fireworks.
Right, and you're looking for your ace to take control out here. You're not looking for him to start anything, especially waking up the other team's offense. You know that offensively, that's what got you here. Concentrate more on that than starting theirs.
Well, Pedro Martinez certainly didn't have his best stuff yesterday either, although that after this entire incident happened, he got better, which amazes me. And Roger Clemens, I think, in large part, Jerry, took advantage of what happened. He got tougher, too.
Well, Clemens really kept himself in check yesterday. You know, we've seen Roger over the years get excited and at times maybe too excited, and it really takes him out of focus, out of his ball game. But yesterday it didn't happen at all. Matter of fact, it seemed like he relished what happened because after that he was awfully tough again. He had to come out after the 6th innings. He was emotionally drained, physically tired of everything that had gone on. But, you know, yesterday was as good as I've seen Clemens pitch in quite a while. He was excellent.
And he was fired up, too, about Pedro Martinez coming over Karim Garcia's head, but to me that's a little bit incredulous when you consider Roger Clemens, and I have great respect for Roger Clemens, but the fact is he is known, guys, for doing the exact same thing. We'll never forget what happened against Mike Piazza, and of course he has the history as well against the Red Sox.
Right, anytime it's someone else and you're looking at them, then the picture becomes bigger. Roger Clemens is definitely a competitive. Him and Piazza had whatever problems, but still, when you're in a big game like yesterday, you got to go out there and try to win.
And Jerry, that's more dangerous than even what Pedro did.
You know, I recall that, Bob, earlier in the season because, you know, the Red Sox had been hitting a number of home runs in that series, and I know Roger was pitching the next day, and I was saying to myself, well, whoever takes the biggest cut off him is the one that's going to go down. And it just happened in that game to be Millar. He took a big swing prior to that, and then Roger knocked him down on the next pitch. Look, this is something that Roger grew up with. You know, that's how he plays the game. That's how Nolan Ryan played the game. You know, not to say right or wrong, but that's how they do it. And I can tell you this as a hitter, and Sam could probably tell you better. They didn't want to throw at me because they didn't want me on base. They want to make me hit. A guy that has some power. When there's some intimidation, when you're not quite sure what this guy is going to do, you're not as good a hitter. There's no question about that. Both Pedro Martinez, both Roger Clemens have done that throughout their whole career. With God-given ability that they have, the hard work that they put in, and the fact that they are intimidating, all works to their advantage.
These great pitchers, so many of them, Sam, are in the Hall of Fame, as Jerry just said. Nolan Ryan, Don Drysdale, Bob Gibson. I mean, guys that, you know, they'd take your head off.
Right, and they're going to do that not with guys that are pesky, and not speaking about you, Jerry, but they do want to take an intimidated guy that can hurt them down the road. When you're looking at Manny or Millar or something like that, guys that swing big, not necessarily saying they're trying to hit home runs, but they're trying to take vicious cuts up there, and sometimes respect-wise pitchers say you can't do that.
And there are two different things about pitching inside and going after somebody's head. In fact, Jerry, while we were watching the game yesterday and you were watching Pedro, you were making the comment that you thought that Pedro needs to pitch a little bit more inside again like he used to kind of get that back and own the whole plate.
Oh, I agree. You know, like Pedro's velocity right now is not quite the same as it was a few years ago. We saw yesterday at 88 miles an hour. Now, obviously, the more you see of that as an opposing player, you become more comfortable. I mean, it's not the guy that's throwing 96 and blowing you away with every fastball he throws. So, yes, in my opinion, I think he probably should get back to pitching inside a little bit more than what we saw all season long. That's a decision he has to make. But there is a huge difference between pitching inside, knocking somebody down, and also throwing at somebody's head.
Well, fact is, the Red Sox have not looked all that comfortable in the playoffs at the plate. One guy in particular, Nomar Garciaparra, he's had his struggles. He's had his struggles really since the beginning of September, Jerry, which you kind of wonder as you look at the videotape of him. What's he doing?
Well, it just seems to me, and I've mentioned this over and over again, that the front shoulder seems to be leaving a little bit too soon. And, you know, what is the reason for that? Well, there could be a couple. One could be fatigue. The fact that he is not driving the ball hard the other way. He feels like he has to pull the ball and be able to hit a home run. The combination of things. Look, you could be in a rut. And this is a bad time of the year to be in a rut because all you see now is quality pitching. You see the top 3 guys in the Oakland staff. You'll see the top 4 on the Yankee staff. So there are no guys out there that are easy targets for you to help you break out of a slump. So once you're swinging poorly and you face pitching like this, it takes longer and longer to get out of that. I'm totally convinced he's a great hitter. He's a great player. He's going to come out of it. But it has been a frustrating month of September and also here in October for Nomar, and they need him big time.
Sammy, Nomar is much better than this, hitting a $154 in this series, only $242 in the postseason without an RBI.
And that comes from much of him trying to do too much. Everyone knows that the offensive is what got the team here in the playoffs and the push up into this point. So everybody is trying to come out and do it themselves. If they can just come out and do the things they did all year, like Nomar right there on those clips, you didn't see one swing that looked like he was trying to hit the ball to the opposite field. When you're trying to go up there and pull everything, you have to open up early, you have to commit early, and that makes it where you swing at worse pitches.
Now, Nomar's not alone with his struggles at the plate, and here's the deal. If you don't have your swing, Jerry, your best swing at this time of year, and you're facing this kind of pitching, it all comes together to give you some very dismal numbers.
I mean, think about it, Bob. Has there been a bad performance against the Red Sox in the playoffs? You know, we looked at the Oakland series, and of course you had Hudson and Zito, and then even Lilly pitched a great game against them. And you come into the Yankee series, you start off with Messina, you get Andy Pettitte, then you get Roger Clemens. I mean, there's no off day. There's no time to get out of that slump. And as we look at the playoff struggles of some of these players so far this year, Bill Miller, the American League batting champion, the 182 batting average this series, 133. Millar's had his struggles, certainly, and David Ortiz has had his struggles. But again, we always expect that when you get to the playoff, pitching generally dominates. You don't see many high-scoring games. There have been a few exceptions in the Cubs series. But overall, it's been low-scoring ball games, and that's the way the playoffs are.
And I have to agree. You know, you have to kind of like get back to these guys. Each one of these guys are kind of struggling, and up until this point, Ortiz maybe had a big game to help him go. Then you had Trot and whatever. Usually it used to be where 3 or 4 guys a night was chiming in and having a good night, where now it's just one guy.
Yeah, and it's hard to do it against these quality pitchers. There's no question. You play Tampa Bay in a 4-game series, you're going to see some guys you may be able to do some damage against, and that's not playoff baseball. Up next, we're going to tell you about the status of tonight's game. They're still inspecting the field, and we'll have more information on that as we look ahead to Game 4 of the American League Championship Series. Had tickets to tonight's ball game. You're not watching us. They're already at the ballpark. But tickets for tonight's game will be used on Tuesday for the 4:18 starting time. If you're planning to go to tomorrow's game and you have tickets, those tickets are still good for Monday. So tickets for today will be used on Tuesday. You know what this does, though, now, guys? John Burkett, who was scheduled to pitch tonight in the ball game for the Red Sox, most likely, Jerry, I would guess, he's not going to pitch tomorrow.
Yeah, Grady Little mentioned that today in his meeting with the national media. He said they asked that there would be changes. He said there will be changes. Didn't mention the fact that Burkett would not pitch, but that's certainly a possibility. You would move Wakefield up to tomorrow. You could move Derek Lowe up for the next game, and then you worry about Game 6 when you get there to New York, if you get there. So I would think there might be some adjustments in the starting rotation. I'm sure that announcement will come down very soon from Grady Little. I'm not sure what Joe Torre's going to do. I have a feeling that Torre may stick with David Wells and just continue on the path they're on.
Although David Wells has had problems at Fenway Park, but you're right, he's also this guy who's been in the playoffs. They really don't have that weak link.
And they also do have the setup after that of Messina, Pettitte back at home, and Clemens if they needed him.
So, Sammy, probably works to the Red Sox advantage, the fact that we had rain tonight.
Right, it gives everyone a chance to kind of like take the edge off of tonight. Pitchers can get an extra day of rest and, like they said, be able to hopefully set their rotation differently.
And maybe let us get a little more time, Jerry, between Game 3 and Game 4.
I'd rather play tonight.
I know you do. All right, we'll be back with you, though, after Game 4 for WB Mason's Extra Innings. For Jerry Remy and Sam Horn, I'm Bob Rogers. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you again next time from our Fenway Park studios.
Johnson came in and said the water is standing out there over your feet and the conditions would be too dangerous. So the game at this point canceled, postponed for today. Joe?
All right, Chris, thanks. Welcome back to the broadcast booth. As you look at some of the pictures from right now, it is raining. The rain is let up for the most part, but the field, that's the question. Should I just walk on? No, I'll come back in. What does this do for the rest of the series? I guess that's the question. If this game is officially postponed, and evidently that's the situation. Really, it would play into the Boston Red Sox hands. And when you think of it, Joe Torre, when we asked him about 2 hours ago, if this game is rained out, what does that do to your pitching rotation? He said nothing. Now, obviously, that is subject to change. If he changes his mind before tomorrow rolls in, then so be it. But he is going to stay with David Wells. What does it do on the other side for the Boston Red Sox? Part of them were hoping that this game, once it started raining all day, wouldn't happen. Why? Because now they can skip John Burkett. They can have Tim Wakefield go in Game 4, and then what would have been the travel day on Tuesday now is a game day. And that means that Derek Lowe, who's been very good here at Fenway Park, could then be moved up and pitch here at Fenway before the series would shift back to New York if necessary. So that's the situation, and let's go down to Chris Myers, who is standing by again. Chris?
Yeah, Joe, again, Tuesday, we're getting official word here from baseball's Executive Vice President Sandy Alderson that it will be a 4:18 Eastern time, so that's a Tuesday afternoon start here at Fenway Park. Tuesday afternoon as the series shifts because of the weather problems. Joe?
So we thought we would have official word. The answer is it is postponed. There is no game here tonight, and so we will take a little break. There is no baseball to be played at Fenway Park tonight. We will see you tomorrow night on Monday night from Boston. Until then, so long.